A pleasant good morning to everyone and welcome. Welcome once again to another episode of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Glad to have you aboard. Coming up on today's show, guest menu looks like this. Morel Mo Carter of WZDX Fox 54 in Huntsville, Alabama. He'll join me in hour number one at about 10:35. Giving his perspective on SWAC Football Media Day and take a look at Alabama A&M. High expectations for Alabama A&M. And then in hour number two, Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day will join me in hour number two. And also, you'll hear from the good doctor, Michael Prince, very shortly. Here's what's trending on today's Carlos Brown Show. Our thoughts and prayers and condolences goes out to Houston Markham's family. Coach Markham passed away this past week, former head football coach at Alabama State. And I got a little story to share with you about Houston, Coach Markham. I like to refer to him as Coach Markham. Very funny, but part of the business part of being a head football coach in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. And speaking of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, on today's show, it's going to be a lot of conversation about SWAC Media Football Day. That's what's trending on today's Carlos Brown Show. Yes, I'm back. I had a very successful broadcast this past Tuesday in Birmingham, Alabama. Let me just say this. SWAC Football Media Day is always a great event to attend. It's work, but it's also fun, getting a chance to see colleagues, visit with the coaches. I got in with Michael Elam, just give him a shout out, who really helped us on the broadcast along with Mrs. Prince. Couldn't have done it without them. They were running all over the place, checking the quality of the broadcast, also lining up the coaches and guests. So we appreciate both of those individuals. It was a great event. I always enjoy making the 5-hour drive to Birmingham, Alabama from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Tremendous attitude there. We got a chance to talk to a lot of coaches, also the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. And this past week was a bit different because I know the first year I went, and by the way, it was a 10-year anniversary of me participating in SWAC Football Media Day in 2009. The first year, it was on a Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken, and then this past year. So a little adjustment there, but guess what? It still was an outstanding event. We're going to talk about just tidbits from SWAC Football Media Day. Also, a predicted order finish, it's no secret. I mean, it's not that I'm just a great person to predict all of these predictions, but it kind of basically went the way that I thought it would, except for maybe the Prairie View and the Grambling situation in the West. We'll have more on that. So we're going to talk about that, predicted order finish. Also, the all preseason Southwestern Athletic Conference football teams for team first, second unit introduced at the SWAC Football Media Day. And then also some other interesting news. SWAC Football Championship permanently on the Higher Seas campus. A lot of people are very happy with that decision. I have no problem with it. I actually thought that in a few years it would go to a neutral site again. I was wrong on that. So I'm comfortable. I'm okay with it. It's nothing I could change anyway. The conference, they did their homework. They made the decision that this was the best way going forward. Also, the basketball championship will continue to be played in Birmingham, Alabama, and Tiffany Trophies now will be in charge of making the trophies, which was very big news. And then there was one other bit of piece of news as far as with a and Dr. Prince, let me introduce you. Good morning. I can't remember what the company's name, but as far as with the jet service, now the teams can have a chance to use that particular product, and it would help in traveling. And also, I know the commissioner said some discounts pretty much for teams that wanted to use the services. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir. How are you, man?
Well, I'm doing fine. It's a beautiful Saturday in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and guess what? Some things are consistent, like life. Heat and humidity in Baton Rouge. Gotta love it.
Yes, sir.
Gotta love it.
Well,
humidity is outstanding.
I am glad that you and Brother Truck were able to get a safe return back to Baton Rouge, and the weather, according to the Almighty, was somewhat favorable. Could have been far worse than projected, and we're glad for the safe returns on that, man. And it is truly, truly a blessing to be back home. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Home is where the heart is.
Yes,
that's
sir.
a cliche that's been used over the years. So, you get a chance to travel, but, home base is home. It is what it is. Your kind of thoughts on SWAC Football Media Day 2019 version?
I thought it was a successful run. I really did. I enjoyed it. As you had made mention, there's a lot of work that goes into it behind the scene to try to give you the best possible quality that you can get through a live production, because anything can go wrong. But from beginning to end, there are some minor things that was discussed in the SWAC Media Summit at the end of the conference. I think will help enhance and improve. But it was a good deal. It was a good deal, man. It was good to see and feel the energy on Radio Row, to feel the energy throughout the room from various interviews, players, athletic directors, everybody walking in a positive, upright spirit. But what's more intriguing, man, were the off-air conversations that took place. Some very informative. Some, as they say, straightening out tangled lines. But the bottom line is it was a family reunion, and I think it was an overall success, and can't wait to see things continue to move forward and get better.
Well, we have a lot to discuss on today's show, so we kind of want to stretch out a little bit. We don't want to force feed it on everybody all at once, so we've got to now listen to 2-hour time frame so we can kind of spread it out. Most of the show is going to be about SWAC Football Media Day. In Baton Rouge home base, pulling up the first topic, a point that I wanted to discuss and also get everyone's input. I got the Coles Brown Facebook page show up and at 'em, also Facebook Messenger. A lot of you partake of that you can send a question or comment, and I will do my best to answer it. If it's a question for Brother Prince, I will relay that question or comment to him as well. Well, in the opening, Dr. McClellan takes the microphone at center stage, and he announces an update on the football championship game. And the Southwestern Athletic Conference, they announced an update on the future of the football championship game. And the league moved toward adopting a plan that will have the annual contest played at the home site of the highest-ranked team at the conclusion of the regular season. Now, I've got a direct quote from the commissioner, Dr. Charles McClellan. After reviewing several significant proposals that we received in regards to hosting the SWAC football championship game, and in consultation with the SWAC's Council of Presidents and Chancellors, the decision has been made to keep the game on campus. And he also further states that hosting the game on campus last year gave us a great level of insight and understanding as it relates to the overall worth and value the game brings to our conference. We look forward to the future of the game on campus and what should undoubtedly bring exciting atmosphere and memorable performances. So I have no problem with it. Not that I could deter the decision. As I stated in my opening, I thought that in a few years it would go back to a neutral site. I was wrong. Now, when we did, Dr. Prince had the commissioner on the broadcast, I know it was asked about the proposals from other cities, but due to his decision and the confidentiality with those that were involved, he didn't want to say, but he gave an outstanding clue.
Yes, sir.
Did you catch that outstanding clue?
I caught it, and I wasn't going to push the envelope any further, but
right.
I can safely assume that it was in the state that I reside in.
Yes, and weather would not have been an option, I believe.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And let's just be honest. A lot of people, including myself, I thought, and I'll just say the city is Houston. Yeah, I thought they would be in the process of it. So they decided to go back on campus, the higher seed. So the excitement last year, and I've said on this broadcast, I should personally invite those of influence to A.W. Mumford Stadium in December, but maybe I'm getting ahead of myself.
Look, man, you always want to pick the fights, man. You always want to pick the fights, but it's okay. I still love you.
Well, I'm a member of the Jaguar Nation. We are arrogant and confident. That's the way we are.
Hold on. You said that now. You said we are arrogant and confident. You know, so when I reverse that and use that, you bunch of old arrogant jokers, don't get mad at the messenger. I'm just repeating the man himself, Carlos Brown. That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
That's fine, but I could say like the comedian said, I can say that, you can't. But no, I'm not going to say that.
Security,
I think I was more
security.
I think I was more surprised when you use the term as the fans and relate them to some other fans. I want to say you
Cowboys.
Now that's an insult. You know, in France, they used to take the white glove off and slap the person in the face with the glove and
say, on guard, on guard, on guard.
Oui, monsieur. Yeah, my goodness. But it's all in fun because really, one conference, one love, and you like to, talk a little smack.
Yes.
You like to beat the other schools, but at the end of the day, you're still family.
Yes, sir.
And that's the way I look at it.
Yes,
so,
sir.
With that being said, the game is scheduled to be broadcast on ESPNU Saturday, December 7th at 3 p.m. So, I may be in Baton Rouge. I may be in Lorman.
Or you may be in Prairie View. You may be in Prairie View.
Now, I've never been to Prairie View, so I would be excited.
Well, you know what? I tell you what. If it becomes in Prairie View, you definitely wouldn't have to pay for lodging. You could stay right at my home. And
I am humbled.
No, I mean that too. I mean that you could stay at my home, and I will allow you to wear a Prairie View Panther shirt at the game.
Well, years ago, I had a bet with Texas Southern fans, and Southern lost that football game, and I had to take a picture on Facebook.
Yes, sir.
With a maroon T-shirt on with Texas Southern on there.
I understand.
What a humbling experience, and it's still floating around there on the on social media somewhere. Never goes away.
Did I just hear a challenge? Sir?
Well, you notice I kind of moved away from that a little bit. Purple and gold, my goodness.
Yes, sir.
I'll have to think on that one.
Okay.
How about that?
Okay, please do. Please do.
But with that being said, SWAC football championship on the higher seed, they'll host it, and the possibilities. And now it's even more incentive because if you look at Alcorn State, I'm thinking they had a nice money jar.
Well,
with hosting the SWAC championship last year.
Yes, sir.
And then a piece of the pie from the Celebration Bowl. Hey, I just think it's even more incentive to do well and host that game.
Yes, sir. It does well. And the number that was floating around, and this is just a guesstimation, was in the neighborhood of about $1.2 million in revenue that Alcorn received, when the dust settled. And that is always a nice, fat, juicy carrot to dangle in front of the would-be conference opponents.
No, exactly. Now, if you think about it, if you participate in the Bayou Classic, that is in itself a nice nugget. Then, if you have a chance to host a SWAC championship game, and then if you win that, then you go to Atlanta, that number goes up even more.
Yes,
based
sir.
on the Bayou Classic and the SWAC Football Championship. The streets are not paved with gold, but hey,
silver nuggets
a
will
nice
work too.
financial reward.
Silver nuggets.
See, I got my
work
mind thinking. Wait a minute, what was that?
Said silver nuggets work just as good as gold too, baby.
Oh yeah, silver and gold.
Yes, sir.
Boy, that would be interesting. Next, doing that, addressing the media, a basketball championship will continue to be played in Birmingham, Alabama. Now, I believe he said that, correct me if I'm wrong, they hadn't officially signed off on anything, but basically they can do so real soon.
Right, they can do so real soon. And if I'm not mistaken, the difference between the basketball championships and the football championships, he used the word permanently for football being hosted, which means there's a possibility to rotate that basketball tournament around in the near future.
Well, Birmingham and the arena that they had it in this past season, I thought it was the right size.
Right.
As far as I want to say, the capacity was about 5,000.
Yes.
But I'm sure if I'm off a bit or two, someone will correct me. So that's a good thing. And then the format still will be the same. The reward for winning the regular season championship is you get to, host. Or if you finish in the top four, you get to host the first round. And then the semifinals and the finals, you go to Birmingham. And I know me and Charles Edmond have debated that issue, and he was strongly had a concern about if a team, is on the road the last conference games in the regular season, then boom, you got to go travel on the road. Then if you advance there in that one game, then you're in Birmingham. And at the time, Houston, that's a lot of travel. But guess what? Mm-hmm. That's why the incentive is to do well in the regular season. That's right. So you won't have to
win the games. That's what we play to win the games. That's what. Now I do. If I had to choose, I would just rather that they all met at one location and just got it out the way like that. But I do understand you want to give some type of reward to those top four seeds to get a chance to host and make a little extra money before they hit the road, But the thing is, and correct me if I'm wrong now, the attendance for basketball is somewhat been a challenge in comparison to that of football. For whatever reason, there's quality basketball that's played in the conference, no doubt. But it seems that the SWAC is more football oriented than they would be basketball oriented. There's still some tweaking that needs to be done to help push that up.
Well, yeah, and you remember during the basketball season, the Carlos Brown Show basketball SWAC consultant, Coach Pettaway, he addressed that, but he says it could be better during the regular season.
Right.
For example, let's just take. I always use my school for example, so no one can get offended. If you look at the conference schedule, let's just stick with the conference schedule. When Grambling State comes to town, it's going to be the best crowd of the season. Why? A big rivalry. an in-state institution that's also in the conference. Then that's usually on a Saturday when they come to town. Also, the conference now mostly you see a lot of afternoon games. Start at 3. Don't have a problem with that. It grew on me. Because a lot of times you're used to a certain way of tradition, and then sometimes change is good. Sometimes we resist change. So then Alcorn State, I would probably say that's usually on a Saturday, and then Jackson State. Those are probably the best attended conference home games at the F.G. Clark Activity Center. Now, I asked you about Prairie View. What would you say would be well-attended games at home in the conference? I pretty much know one.
Well, hands down, the Texas Southern Prairie View Clash. And here's the ironic thing about the Texas Southern Prairie View deal. Whoever hosts in January has somewhat of a challenge because the students are still out. And so it's during that dead time in between campus. But then whoever ends up with that February host, that is a super large crowd. So part of it has been, how you end, what Prairie View has been ending on the season with Alcorn and with Southern, either on the road or at home. If you could flip that January game with one of the latter two opponents, I know it might be somewhat of an inconvenience, but let that rival game, which could be a big payday for whoever is hosting it, and it doesn't matter, and an impact of the potential standings. I think that would be something to at least look at. The basketball schedule has not been tweaked or nearly altered as they've done with football, and I think it might be time just to try to revisit with that. When it comes to other draws, to be quite honest with you, on the basketball, depends on who's hot. It really depends on who's hot. Grambling would be a decent draw. Southern would be a decent draw. But to be quite honest with you, it is a challenge when there's a valley. When Pine Bluff is hot, they're a decent draw. When Alcorn has not been much of a draw, and when you talk Jackson State, depending on what Jackson State is doing, could have a tendency, because believe it or not, Jackson State has a somewhat significant following in the Houston area. So it's not much for them to trek down the road 40, 45 miles to check out Jackson State Prairie View. But by far, hands down, the Texas Southern Prairie View game is the huge payday for Panther Texas Southern basketball from the conference perspective. And it's just been a challenge, man, to get people to come to these basketball games. Well,
and I think that's been established throughout the conference. And so Coach Pettaway said a better job has to be done in the regular season so that there's some excitement that builds up for the tournament championship.
Yes, no doubt about it.
I would agree with him on that. Hopefully it'll get better, but basketball championship will basically stay the same, but we'll be in Birmingham. The semifinals and the finals, the higher seeds will host first round games 1 through 4. We'll give some other tidbits from SWAC Football Media Day, but let me do this now. SWAC preseason Offensive Player of the Year. Who was at SWAC Football Media Day? Noah Johnson of Alcorn State. I didn't get a chance to talk with him off the record. So squash that rumors of I didn't want to talk to him because he was going to talk about who wants that smoke.
Who wants that smoke, baby?
Yeah.
That was a running thing. That was a running thing throughout the show, right? Who wants some of that smoke?
Yeah.
Coach McNair, who wants some of that smoke, baby?
Yeah, and you see the picture of him online. He has this incredible smirk on his face. Now, is it because of a championship now? Because he, to me, and again, we'll get into some tidbits about the coaches, they're humans as well. They're just football coaches.
Yes, sir. Yes,
he
sir.
seemed much more relaxed. And, boy, if I had to put a plus on him, he was a plus 100.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to previous years. Would one think that was because of the championship?
Well, not only the championship, but he just got a pay raise. He is the man, and some people respond when they are the hunted. And it's just, I compare them. There is no other way I can compare them but other than the New England Patriots, man. They always seem like to get depleted, but they restock and reload. And once again, they're there dangling that smoke, saying who's next? Who's next? And he does a phenomenal job. And when you listen to him, even though he had that smirk on his face, he's not overly confident. He's not a pompous. He's just a good old down-to-earth country guy that loves and is successful as a football coach.
Yeah, I think he's grounded as far as what he means to Alcorn State. He's true Alcornite, and it shows. But to me, he was much, much more relaxed. And I think those two things you mentioned, financially and, winning a championship, I guess that will
it would change your
do
step.
It for you.
Yeah, it would change your step, man. It would change
but
your
now,
step.
You're going to be the hunted now, going forward. And I think he realizes that. SWAC preseason defensive player of the year will stay at Lorman, Solomon Muhammad. SWAC preseason defensive player of the year. Preseason first team offensive course quarterback Noah Johnson. Running back Taeyler. Taylor Porter. I guess that's how you pronounce it. Just spelled a little bit differently. Arkansas Pine Bluff, Deshaun Waller of Alcorn State. Offensive lineman DeJohn Jones of Prairie View A&M. Deontay Brooks, Alcorn State. Mustafa Abraham, Alcorn State. Jodeci Harris, Southern University. Kevin Hall, Alcorn State. The receivers, Tristan Wallace, Prairie View A&M. Wide receiver, DeJuan Miller, Arkansas Pine Bluff. And tight end, Kendrick Johnson, Alabama A&M. So you can see Alcorn State dominates the preseason first team. You don't see anybody from Grambling State on that. Did you notice that?
Yeah, that was kind of weird. It's kind of weird.
And I've had conversations, and when I get to the predicted order of finish, it just seems weird. But I would not count Grambling State out. Like some, kind of. I've had talks with. One person told me he wouldn't be surprised if they're fourth. Wow!
Oh, wow! Now, wait a minute. Whoa! Now.
Well, there could be motivation,
right?
By Grambling State University, but I think they're motivated anyway. But very interesting where they were picked.
Is it really on Grambling that they're picked third, or could it just be the competition level of the West? I don't think it's more or less of a Grambling factor. I think it's just that the West is stocked. Now, don't forget, everybody's focused on that top three, Southern. Oh, well, I'm not going to get into you. I won't spill the beans on the predictive order. But don't go to sleep on Texas Southern.
Well, we've had interesting conversation on Texas Southern University. Call me arrogant, but
arrogant.
Yeah. I put a 2 or 3 year time period on Texas Southern.
Okay.
Just my prediction. Could they do better than expected? There's always that possibility. I mean, again, this is on paper. It's good for a conversation piece, but we all know it's going to be one on the field. And where I look at is O-line and D-line. They never get enough credit,
Right.
Yours truly. When we're talking on the show, quarterbacks, receivers, the explosive guys, none of that could be done without that interior, offensive line, defensive line. So just remember that. And that's why I had a certain team picked at a certain spot, but it didn't come out to that. And one of the teams that you really have to look at, that's where the biggest question mark to me has to be looked at. But we're going to get to that shortly. We're moving on quickly here. Defensive lineman, Jordan Lewis, Southern University. Wow. Just a spectacular freshman year. Picked on the defensive line, pass rush specialist.
He's a man-child. He's a man-child.
Oh, yeah. And, just a little bit heavier, more maturity. We'll see. But, hey, you always got to count for him. Christian Clark, Alabama State, defensive lineman Jalen Stewart, Arkansas Pine Bluff. Anthony Mullins, Grambling State. There we go. Linebacker Darren Johnson, Alabama State. Armani Holloway, Alabama A&M. Solomon Muhammad is a linebacker, Alcorn State. Javen Morrison, Alcorn State. Quinterio Cole, Alcorn State. Defensive back Joseph McWilliams, Grambling State. And defensive back Anthony Parker, Prairie View A&M. And special teams, Corey McCollum, Alcorn State. Anthony Craven, punter, Alabama State. And return specialist Ezra Gray, Alabama State. That's your first team preseason all-conference team. Interesting to say the least, I would think.
No doubt about it at all. And once again, you got to pick people. They're going to be winners and losers when you do all these predictions and projections and woulda, coulda, shouldas. It all starts August 3rd for Prairie View when they light it up at the camps, and August 31st when it's kicked off at 5:30 down at the BBVA against Texas Southern. And till then, it's all talk.
Yeah, teams will be heading to fall camp. I think Coach Odom stated that Southern was reporting July 31st.
Yes. Okay. Getting a little getting ready for that smoke, huh?
Well, Atlanta or bust is what a lot of people are saying.
Yes, sir. Could I say something? Could I say something just for a moment, sir, if you don't mind? Coach Dawson Odom's interview that we had, people were blown out of the water about this guy. And I think they got a chance to see beyond what they get a glimpse from, from watching a game on the television or a stream and hearing sound bites. But when you're able to sit down and dialogue with this man, he is a phenomenal coach, a phenomenal motivator, and a phenomenal human being. It was an awesome insight on the man, the coach, and may I dare add, the legend of Dawson Odoms.
Wow. The legend part.
The legend, yes, sir.
Give him his flowers while he's living.
Yes, sir.
Not when he's gone.
And I've always said that. The guy goes, to me, when you have, whether it's a player, whether it's a person, they have that it factor. And to me, Odoms has that it factor. I know the Achilles heel is 1-9 record against Alcorn. And I know that stings, and I know it's Atlanta or bust. But look at the totality of what you guys have, man, and learn to embrace it and appreciate it.
Well, he was taken care of, and I think people realize that in life you're going to have some people that just will still not care about
I know.
people, but it was an outstanding interview, and it was more about the inner workings of the program. Hopefully we'll be able to share a little bit more about that before the show is over with, but it was outstanding. I have 10:34, so I got a minute before I have to take a break and get the next guest. But predicted order of finish in the Eastern Division, I'll start from the bottom and work my way up from 5 to 1. I won't say bottom, 5 to 1. Excuse me. I apologize. Coming in at number 5 in the East, predicted order finish, Mississippi Valley State with 30 points. Alabama State 4th with 47. By the way, second time talking to Mississippi Valley State, Coach. Always a pleasure. First time talking with Coach Ely at Alabama State. Loves the Blues.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does.
Loves the Blues. Jackson State. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about Coach Hendrick. I was thoroughly impressed with him. You know, I actually like him. Too bad he's at Jackson State. Huh? Jackson State.
Man,
you know
shame
how I
on
feel
you.
about
Shame
it. Take
on
a little,
you, man. You need to go to the altar
State.
in the morning. That's what I'm telling you. You need to go to the altar in the morning. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm perfectly imperfect. Jackson State, 3 with 61 points. Alabama A&M at number 2, getting a lot of love. I'm going to be looking at them. Now is the time. Can they get it done? Coach Maynard says they've got to start beating the Grambling Southerners and Alcorn State. Right attitude. And then Eastern Division tops Alcorn State, most points overall, 92. And then in the West, the division coming in at number 5, Arkansas, Pine Bluff, very dangerous offense. Defense, 10th in the conference last year, 3rd in offense. Nowhere to go but up. Got some nice pieces in the skill position. Coming in at number 4, Texas Southern. Number 34, Grambling State, 3rd with 74 points. Prairie View A&M, 78 at number 2. And then Southern University, number 1 in the Western Division, 90 points. So overall, Alcorn State picked to win it. If it plays out the way the predicted order of finish has stated, it will be a rematch between Southern and Alcorn State. But other teams will have a lot to say about that.
Absolutely.
Prairie View and Alabama A&M run up in their respective divisions. I have more to say about Prairie View A&M and Alabama A&M. But Alabama A&M coming up next with us. We're going to take a quick break. Then I'm going to visit with Morrell Mo Carter from WZDX Fox 54 in Huntsville, Alabama, a Louisiana native, but he covers Alabama A&M and Alabama State in the conference. So we'll ask him the question, is this the year that Alabama A&M gets past Alcorn State and takes the Eastern Division? We shall see. Coming up next, Morrell Mo Carter. We'll take a timeout. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
One voice. It can get the point across, but it only carries so far. Add a voice. It's richer, louder, but that has limits too. Add a third voice. It's even more powerful. Add another, and another, and many, many more. And we are stronger than ever. That's the power of a community coalition. They help community groups, faith groups, civic organizations, PTAs, employers, and many others in your community organize their resources and focus them where they're needed most, like fighting to keep kids away from drugs. Ask a group that you belong to if they should belong to a community coalition. It's easy to get involved. Visit helpyourcommunity.org and they'll tell you exactly how your group can help. That's helpyourcommunity.org, because you get more when we get together. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
I know that as parents, we work hard to do everything right. We baby-proof our homes, put our kids in car seats, and learn what to do in an emergency. Yet most parents don't know that children could be poisoned by lead paint in their own homes. Lead poisoning causes permanent learning and behavior disorders, and the culprit is usually dust from peeling or chipping lead paint, which goes from the children's hands right into their mouths. Keep paint in good condition in your home, daycare, and other places where your children live and play. Ask your doctor to test your child for lead poisoning and get your home tested too. For more information on how to address lead paint problems safely, call 1-800-424-LEAD. This has been a public service announcement from the Open Mic Broadcast Network.
The birth of legends are storied in this conference. We must never forget our rich history. We now turn our gaze to the future. The new legends will emerge. New heroes to arise. The Southwestern Athletic Conference. Be our history.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. We're trying to reach Morrell Mo Carter. Hopefully, in any minute, we will be able to connect with him. And before we do that, we'll take a little short break, if need be, to transition and get him on. But before that happens, we were talking about the predicted order of finish in the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Okay, Morrell Carter says he's ready.
Okay, let's take a break.
So, yeah, we'll take a break and transition, and we will get Morrell Mo Carter on the line. So, with that being said, we'll take a quick time out. Morrell Mo Carter joins me next.
One voice. It can get the point across, but it only carries so far. Add a voice. It's richer, louder, but that has limits too. Add a third voice. It's even more powerful. Add another, and another, and many, many more. And we are stronger than ever. That's the power of a community coalition. They help community groups, faith groups, civic organizations, PTAs, employers, and many others in your community organize their resources and focus them where they're needed most, like fighting to keep kids away from drugs. Ask a group that you belong to if they should belong to a community coalition. It's easy to get involved. Visit helpyourcommunity.org and they'll tell you exactly how your group can help. That's helpyourcommunity.org, because you get more when we get together. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
Broadcasters come into our lives on radio and TV, bringing us information and entertainment. Broadcasters are there for us, but who is there for them when they fall on hard times? The Broadcasters Foundation of America provides financial assistance to broadcasters in acute need due to a critical illness, accident, or other serious misfortune. If you know of a broadcaster on the air or behind the scenes who may need our help, please share our message. Visit broadcastersfoundation.org.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. First guest of today's show, Morrell Mo Carter, WCBX, Fox 54, Huntsville, Alabama. Mo, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Carlos. How you doing, my buddy?
Man, I'm doing all right. I'm sorry I missed you Tuesday in Birmingham, but it was a lot of things going on. I was on Radio Road. You're trying to get your work done, so I appreciate now having a chance to talk with you about SWAC Football Media Day and Alabama A&M.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, definitely the feeling was mutual, and with SWAC Media Day being in a new spot and a new venue, I think a lot of us were just still trying to get used to seeing what was going on, and by the time we finally got into a groove of things, it was like, oh man, the day is almost over with.
Yeah, well, I know you're a busy guy because you're also you have work to do at SEC Media Day that was going on basically at the same time.
Yeah, we did have SEC Media Days going on at the same time. I mean, luckily, I do have a larger sports team, so I was able to take care of SWAC while the rest of my sports team were checking out SEC media days. I mean, per se, you know, it wasn't like it was a day where Alabama or Auburn was there, but we still did have some special cases that people and viewers were interested in. Like, for instance, Tennessee head coach Jeremy Pruitt, he's from Rangeville, Alabama. That city's within our viewing area. And also, you know, Kirby Smart, you know, with all his ties to being a former Alabama Crimson Tide assistant coach, you know, people still always want to hear that and whatnot. So, you know, but luckily, like I said, my sports team was able to handle that while I was able to take care of the home team, which was Alabama A&M.
Well, that's good to have a great team, so you don't have to spread yourself so thin. You got help. With that being said, kind of get your thoughts on overall SWAC football media day, as you said, at a new location within the city of Birmingham, the Western Hotel. But your thoughts on the overall SWAC football media day and predicted order finish, and also some of the big news that the commissioner addressed in his opening comments.
Well, overall, I was happy about Media Day, one, because, hey, that means football season is really, really getting closer. Two, I was also really happy about Media Day from the announcement standpoint, from the fact that Commissioner Dr. Charles McClellan is showing that he is making strides with the conference and he is pushing it forward. I think the whole, you know, the first announcement about Tiffany's and Company being the official sponsor to present all the trophies. That is huge. I did a little research by the time I got back home later on that night. I saw that Tiffany's actually does the Lombardi Trophy, and they also do the Larry O'Brien Trophy for the NBA. So, considering the fact that, all right, the SWAC Championship Trophy and the Celebration Bowl trophies, along with individual MVP awards, are going to be in that same line as, you know, as pro sports trophies, as far as like the make and model of it. I thought that was absolutely huge for the conference. And this is one of those things, it's those little things that you're like, wow, you know, doing that, it's kind of like, what's next? Because I think probably once you do this, I'm pretty sure that maybe after that, I would not be surprised from an individual standpoint, like championship ranges may be like the next thing that may be, you know, rolling through. And then the announcement of the private jet, I think that was really, really exciting news to hear, because the fact that the SWAC is able to do that now means that that'll be able to help a lot of budgets for several schools within the SWAC when it comes to travel. I think that was absolutely wonderful information. And I think the best overall announcement that he made was the fact that, hey, they were not in the red at the end of the 2019 athletic season. I think that's always a positive thing, meaning that, hey, the conference made money, and then they were able to put the money back into the conference as well, especially when they said they were able to host the banquets at, like, the SWAC baseball and softball tournaments, and you're able to actually give the awards away to the players in a nice setting compared to randomly just giving it to them at a random game during the SWAC tournaments for both the softball and baseball teams.
Yeah, and that's officially September, I think, something like that, being on the job 1 year. So you can just look forward to better days ahead.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Dr. Charles McClellan. And also I'll add this, very accessible to the media. Every time I've requested an interview, no problem. He visited Radio Row. And, you know, you didn't really have to search for him and try to, you know, he was in the area. And
oh, absolutely, man. You know, he was popping between the Radio Row and digital, and he was talking to a couple of the beat writers for newspaper, and then he walked into the TV room, and it was funny because, like, he was like, y'all don't need me up in here, and most people were kind of like, wow, we got you early here. And it was like, but if you want to jump in these long lines, sure. And he's like, nah, I'm good. Move over to where else I see you. So you're right. He's very, very, very accessible. But as far as like the SWAC predicted order of finish, I'm going to be honest with you, Carlos. I'm not surprised that, of course, you know, Southern was chosen to win the West while Alcorn was chosen to win the East. I'm a tad bit surprised that Prairie View was the second team over Grambling. I mean, I do know that Coach Eric Duke. I do know that Coach Eric Dooley did get off to a very great start last year, but then, the wheels started falling off on the wagon with them throughout the mid-season. But I don't know, maybe a lot of the people who voted for it, like the SIDs and the ADs, maybe they saw what Prairie View has coming back. And because of that, that's why, they kind of put some things out there to put Prairie View on top of Graham. In the East, it's kind of what I thought it was going to be as far as Alcorn State continuing to, to be the dominant factor. And it's kind of like, all right, I need everybody else to catch up. So, Alabama A&M right behind them, followed by Jackson State and whatnot. So, yeah, I would not be surprised if it kind of falls towards that. But then, the old saying, Carlos, you play the games to win the game, and the games are won on the field. So we'll see how that all goes, especially in the latter part of the season.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Visiting with Morel O'Connor of WZDX, Fox 54 in Huntsville, Alabama, getting his thoughts on SWAC Football Media Day. Now, let me specifically target now Alabama A&M. Pick second in the East, and you know much more about Alabama A&M than me, Mo, but I was surprised. I've gone on record as saying Alabama A&M, every year you hear about this is their year to get a little bit closer. Can 2019 football season, could they be at that point where everyone has been talking about, albeit year 2 under Coach Maynard?
No, absolutely. I think this is the year that they can definitely make some strides. I mean, they actually did so last year as well. I mean, I'm not talking from it because across the way. You consider this. All right, like last year, okay, they will think about this. Last year, there were several games that they were in the fold for. You think about the Gulf Coast Challenge. They were beating Southern, 21-6 midway through the second quarter. And then, some things just fell off for them in the second half, and Southern was able to pull off the victory. They were neck and neck with Alcorn State at the half, and then just, second and third quarter, really kind of did them in. And then they lost to Grambling by 13 points, but Akil Glass threw 2 pick sixes. You take away those mistakes, the SWAC East is a whole the SWAC East looks differently with Alabama A&M possibly rising to the top spot. And Coach Maynard talked about how the mistakes are definitely costly, but then he owned up to it, saying that, hey, I've got to put the guys in a better position to make things happen. Now, as far as this year, I mean, I think with a lot of the experience that they have, the coaching staff kind of having a few little changes, but in honesty, I think that's not a bad thing. They have a good opportunity to do some really, really good things. The most important thing is that last, 5 games of the season, which basically start with the Magic City Classic in October, when, of course, big game against Alabama State. Then afterwards, they go to Southern the first week in November for Southern's homecoming. Then they host Jackson State. Then they go to Alcorn State. That little 4 or 5 game stretch will definitely really determine what the SWAC East will look like, and possibly the SWAC West as well, because I think the same week that they play the Magic City Classic, I want to say Southern's playing Alcorn as well.
Yeah, so, October 26th.
Yeah, so the last 5 weeks of the season really will probably determine the SWAC West and the SWAC East. It's just for Alabama A&M's sake, they've got to find a way to push through and get by. I mean, here's the thing: we know Alcorn is good. Hey, we know it. Noah Johnson's probably the best dual threat quarterback in all the, FCS football. Now it'll just be Alabama A&M's duty to, stop a guy like that, contain a guy like that, and then put some points on the board as well when they played them. But I also think that it'll be good that they have Jackson State at home, just in case you get to a situation where you might, need to knock them off, and then Jackson State may have to still pick up some momentum to get up for Alcorn when it comes to tiebreaker scenarios as well. But Yeah, Coach Maynard, look, I know Coach Maynard probably as well as anybody here in the Huntsville area. And I mean, hey, he's always been a winner, and he's trying to turn Alabama A&M into a winner. And I think he's doing it. You just got to take baby steps to do it, Carlos.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of why I look at a 2 to 3 more years and then look at where Alabama A&M is at. A lot of people are really, that I've talked to, think they have a shot this year, but I think it's a process. Let me give everyone a quote, and this is off the Alabama A&M website, talking with Coach Maynard. He says, "It's nice to be in that discussion. Every season our goal is to win the conference and play in the Celebration Bowl. But before we can do that, first we have to beat the top teams in our conference. Teams like Alcorn, Southern, and Grambling. To be the best, you've got to beat the best. That's what we're trying to do." So again, it's that process. I take your comments about Southern. Yeah, it didn't look good at all for a while against Alcorn. Played them close, and then, of course, he talked about Grambling. If they're to break through, they've got to win it at least 2 out of the 3. They may think they can win all 3, but that is the process I think that they have to get by. But I think they're on their way. I just don't think just yet. But I could be wrong, Mo. I could definitely be wrong.
Yeah. No, actually, I'm kind of in agreement with you. Coach Maynard's from North Carolina, same place as the great Ric Flair, and actually he said that's one of his favorite wrestlers. So, for him to say that, to beat the man, to beat a man, you got to beat the man. He uses that phrase a lot when he's talking to the media and whatnot. Look, but out of those big 3, one good thing that actually lucks up for Alabama A&M is that technically the Grambling game is a non-conference game.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's a non-conference game. So luckily, let's say they would have the fall of that. Technically, they're still in good running. But then at the same time, if they would happen to beat Grambling on the road, that still would be a momentum boost because that shows you, that'll show you that, all right, hey, we can hang with a team that's definitely been at the top or near the top of the conference, especially under the under Coach Broderick Fives. He's been there several years now. It's just, the fact that, Grambling has a coach that's not either Eddie Robinson or Doug Williams still kind of like, okay, wait, it's a new coach. You know what I mean?
Right. And Mo, speaking of Grambling State University, to me, now some have disagreed with me that I've talked to after media day. How did Forbes look to you as far as demeanor? They did something a little differently. They had 2 coaches on the stage with Tiffany Green, and then Jay Walker kind of alternated as being a host, but it was kind of more to me like how the MEAG does it, with they're sitting down there. But I don't know, Forbes didn't seem, and again, I could be wrong, he just seemed a little bit different to me. Did you pick that up, or he was the same to you?
I kind of did pick that up. He had more of an attitude of, hey, we may be pretty good, but we got a lot of work to do. Mm-hmm. He had like that kind of demeanor / attitude. And then once he started explaining some things, I could unsee where he's coming from. Like when we asked him about his quarterback, okay, yeah, he's got a returning starting quarterback. But then he turns around and said, look, yeah, just because our returning starting quarterback does not mean that he will technically win the job in the fall. Yeah, so what's the Hickenbottom? He basically said that it's like, hey, he's been good, but we do have some other guys, and he specifically said like another person in general who could actually come on and challenge Hickenbottom for that starting quarterback position. And I see what he mean. I went back and looked at some of his stats. There were some games Hickenbottom was off the chain and then come back and he threw like 3 interceptions, and the offense kind of struggled a little bit. As far as defense, of course, they're losing Dearius Christmas, and he was just basically saying from a leadership standpoint on the defense, they'll be looking for somebody to step up since Christmas had been kind of handling a lot of that. So when he explains it like that, I can see where he's kind of like, all right, I know I probably have to do my best coaching job this year. Not saying I don't have great athletes on the team, but maybe I'm in the mix in the fold where I have to like develop winners or whatever compared to having the winners, having guys who were in the SWAC championship game prior to, like, now they know they got to like really, really work. So I did kind of pick that up from him. And also I do know too, he was like, we need to get past those first 2 games of the season and then worry about the rest. Since, you know, they've got 2 FBS games early on.
Well, and to your point about quarterbacks, I guess he's saying he's looking for some competition there. 1, and then 8 out of 10 quarterbacks are coming back for their respective teams this year. So still experience coming back, and, you know, you're not bringing in new quarterbacks. Only, Jackson State, and who else I'm missing that's not bringing back a starter or quarterback with experience. The other one escapes me. But a lot of experience coming back at quarterback in the conference.
Which is really, really good because that creates a lot of competition from top to bottom and in the main position of your team. Instead, so that means that, all right, when it comes to the preseason camps, you're not really in competition mode. You're more so in the, all right, just making sure that these guys mesh well and develop well because the season is literally right around the corner. I think we're like, 6 weeks away, Carlos?
Yeah, well, for fall, I count fall camp starting, so most teams don't start around the same time.
Camp, we're like 2 weeks away.
Yeah, and you know about that. It was a time, long time ago, that you come to camp and, well, if I need to do a little, cardiovascular, be in shape, now you have to come to camp ready to go day one. And
absolutely.
It shows if you have not done that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I say I'm so grateful. Like when I played at Southern University that, I did go to summer school for my last 3 years. And by doing so, that allowed me to still work out with the team. Rest in peace to Coach Thomas Zeus Hall, who used to push us to the limit during those summers. But then once he pushed us to those limits, we were able to actually, do the skills test at the end of the year. And all of a sudden, all right, man, we're ready. And then you get a few days off, guys come back, and then we're good. But the ones who haven't been there all summer, all of a sudden they put to that summer conditioning test. And if you pass it, great. If you don't, then technically you really can't get full.
Yeah. You have some work to do. You're in the catch up mode, and before you know it, it's time for game one.
Right.
And so it's so important. As we wrap this up, but overall, you go with the predicted finish of order. Alcorn State and Southern University, if it goes the way the predictions have gone, made, they will have a rematch in 2019 SWAC football championship. But as I stated earlier in the show, you got other teams that will say not so fast. But Alcorn State is the favorite, and Dr. Prince says they're the New England Patriots of the SWAC.
Dude, the way things have been going, you're right. They kind of have been the New England Patriots per se. Luckily, Coach McNair is a little bit more media friendly than what Bill Belichick is. Well, I got familiar with the term "Who Wants That Smoke," and I did a little research. Okay, it's basically a song, the group, but it was a great experience in Lorma on the reservation. Terrific crowd, and that came up during our interviews at SWAC Football Media Day. Who wants that smoke? But I could think of a couple of teams that definitely would like another shot at it. So, absolutely.
We shall see.
Absolutely. That's why I think, that's why I said that last 4 to 5 weeks of the season will really, really determine some things. I mean, people are going to be aiming for both Southern and Alcorn. From the East perspective, Alabama A&M has a chance to get in that fold. They've just got to handle business at the time. At the time that is needed. I even talked to a few people. They said, that November 5th game between A&M and Southern could almost be not a preseason, be a possible SWAC championship preview if A&M will be able to handle their business as well. And yeah, I have talked to a few people or whatever who think, who follow, the SWAC just as a whole, and they think that if A&M is able to break through, it could be A&M versus Southern. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, man, from a professional standpoint, that actually be pretty cool, because that means that I'll be able to travel back to Baton Rouge for a second time in like 4 weeks to, enjoy a SWAC championship game between the team that I cover and the team that I played and graduated for. But the other thing I think about too is the fact that, like, I think if Southern was able to get the SWAC championship game in Muffler Stadium, it would almost be like homecoming all over again.
Well, that's an understatement. It'll be jambalaya. It will be crawfish etouffee pouring. The tailgating. Every program in the conference, they tailgate.
Right.
Well, but you're going to a whole nother level. There'll be some things on that grill I haven't seen in 20 years. Question for you, Mo. If that were to happen, which shirt would you wear? Alabama A&M, Southern, and I'll just say this: somebody pays you, so I understand if you could, you have to just have a shirt tie on.
All right, so here's what I've done in this scenario.
Okay.
Here's what I've done in this scenario. I'll use last year for example, Gulf Coast Challenge. All right, I went to the parade with a Southern University shirt on, but then by the time it got to game time, I just put my WZX polo on.
There you go.
Because I knew it was game time. The year before, when Alabama A&M played at Southern, where the game where they had to push it up due to the hurricane coming through,
right,
did the same thing. During the parade. Well, no, they didn't have the parade. I remember. Take that back. But riding to Baton Rouge, I had a Southern University shirt on. My wife had a Southern University shirt on, but then I switched over to a WZDX polo because, like you said, somebody puts money into my paycheck.
Yeah. I asked Charles Edmond that one time, and he's a Grambling alum, but he works for Alcorn. He says he's going for the team that pays his check, that pays him. So, but great answer. That way you're safe. You show a little love to your alum, and then it's business.
But also, here's the thing too. I can't go to my family's tailgate area just wearing a big old Alabama in him, shirt. I mean, they would know. Most of them would know, what the deal would be and whatnot. Right. So it wouldn't be as bad, but it wouldn't be like a situation if I was like doing play-by-play for Grambling and then walked over to the tailgate area with a GSU shirt on.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine how bad that would ever be.
Yeah, that's why I think I'll never make a bet with the school that I love to pick at, Jackson State, because I don't have to wear Jackson State. I wouldn't say I'd rather deaf, but it would be true. Oh, that would be a tremendous liability.
Oh,
so
I believe. I
won't make a bet with Jackson State.
And one of the first people that I get on you will be my man Charles Bishop, probably.
Oh, you know it. You know it. You know it. Well, Morel O'Connor, appreciate your perspective on SWAC Football Media Day and Alabama A&M. I'm going to be sitting and observing. A lot of people believe that Alabama A&M picked second in the East. They may have just what it takes to make the race in the Eastern Division very, very interesting. Prairie View A&M and Alabama A&M picked second in the respective divisions. It'll be interesting to say what will happen. And well, let me add this quickly. I think O-line and D-line, who's the most dominant there, they win it. They win it. They don't get the glory, but without those big guys up front and on the defensive line, man, you got to have whoever play there.
Whoever wins the battle between the trenches definitely has a big advantage. Whoever wins that has a big advantage. I always make it my priority whenever I go to practice to like always get like good shots of offensive and defensive linemen because I know what kind of work they put in. Well, I've seen many times or whatever. I just know lots of times they may not get the credit per se.
Right. Well, that's what I look at. Prairie View A&M and Alabama A&M. O-line and defensive line. Let's see what happens. But appreciate the time. Have a great weekend. We'll talk again real soon.
All right. Sounds good, Carlos. I guess we'll probably talk sometime during the preseason once I can kind of give you a good idea of what Manor's been yelling at kids about.
Yeah, well, I want to keep a closeness about Alabama A&M. I'm intrigued. Like I said before, a lot of people think they're an up-and-coming program, and they may be there already with Coach Manor. So I think they deserve to be watched closely.
Yes, sir.
And we will definitely count on you for that. Appreciate it, Mo. Have a great weekend.
You do the same, man. Thank you.
All righty. Take care. That was Mo Carter of WZDX, Fox 54 in Huntsville, Alabama, talking about SWAC Football Media Day and Alabama A&M. Going to take another timeout, and when I come back, I'm scheduled to talk to Brandon B.J. Jones at about 11:30. So we will mix it up a little bit, give you some more insight on SWAC Football Media Day, the coaches and what have you, and talk about some of the interviews with the coaches. We'll do all that coming up next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Chris, can you put the video game controller down for a second?
I can talk and play. Oh, I'm totally annihilating this punk kid in Nebraska.
I just feel like you're not acting like a grown-up in our relationship.
Am too.
Well, you still ride your skateboard to work. There's the comic book collection, the race car bed.
Look, I'm young at heart, but I put money into my 401k every paycheck. I picked up a few savings tips at feedthepig.org. I have control over my financial life now, and that feels pretty grown up.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. For free ideas and easy tips on ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
So, I bet I look like a grown-up to you now.
Well, except for the footy pajamas, I'd have to agree.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
Are you one of the many Americans that deal with the effects of diabetes? Diva Skin Conditioner could be the remedy that you need. Diva Skin Conditioner is a formulation that was designed with you in mind. Diva Skin Conditioner comes with a money-back guarantee. That's how confident they are in their product. For more information, visit DivaFeet.com. That's DIVAH feet.com. Or you can speak with a representative by dialing 903-270-0026.
The birth of legends are storied in this conference. We must never forget our rich history. We now turn our gaze to the future. The new legends will emerge. New heroes to arise. The Southwestern Athletic Conference. Be our history.
Are you looking for an affordable way to increase your business? Let the Open Mic Broadcast Network lead the way. For a customized, affordable ad campaign, call 832-213-8824.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show. Heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Just visited with Morel Mo Carter of WZDX Fox 54, Huntsville, Alabama, giving his perspective on SWAC Football Media Day in Alabama A&M. I'm scheduled to talk with Brandon B.J. Jones at about 11:30 of HBCU Game Day, get his thoughts on 2019 SWAC Football Media Day. SWAC mourns the loss of former ASU head coach Houston Markham Jr. Former Alabama State head coach Houston Markham Jr. passed away Wednesday morning with loved ones by his side. That's all right. Markham, the winningest coach in Hornets football history, leaves behind a legacy HBCU National Championship with a 36-13 victory over North Carolina A&T in the Alamo Heritage Bowl. Remember the Heritage Bowl? Had a chance, Dr. Prince, to be in attendance of several of those games, but a funny story. Houston Markham, when Marino, the Godfather Castle, was athletic director at Southern University, boy, AD coached at Alcorn and then Southern University. I wonder if we asked him which was the favorite place to be employed at. I wonder what his answer would be. The Godfather. Somehow I think he probably would say Alcorn. But I could be wrong. But anyway, he was the AD at Southern University, and they were looking for a coach at Southern University. It was a done deal that Coach Markham was going to be the coach at Southern University. Everything had been agreed upon except what? The signature on the paperwork. So Coach Markham goes back to Alabama State. Next thing I knew, it was a press conference call. He was staying at Alabama State with a nice increase. That's business, Dr. Prince. That's business. And boy, the Jaguar Nation, they were not happy. They were not happy. And I think the next time they played Alabama State, it was weeping and gnashing of teeth. But Houston Markham passed on. He's journeyed to the other side. Once again, thoughts and prayers and condolences goes out to Coach Markham's family at this time. But 58% winning percentage, career record of 68-47 losses, 68 wins and 4 ties, and also had 4 players drafted in the National Football League. It seems like every other day or once a week, someone has journeyed to the other side. I talked about Dr. Gibson, mathematician at Southern University over 30 years, and my buddy in the press box. I got in trouble in the press box one time, and because it's a working environment and cheering and none of that is allowed. You get that announcement. Somehow eyes were always on me, though. I wonder why, but it wasn't me. I want to say it was Dr. Gibson. It was Southern was playing. I can't remember who they were playing, but he didn't like the defensive lineman. And, Dr. Gibson was drawing up the formations, how they should be on paper. And as he was talking about that, maybe they're playing Nickel State or somebody. And, yeah, that's who it was. The team didn't throw but 5 passes. I think they completed 1. But Dr. Gibson was fired up. He said they were in the wrong defense. You don't give that much coverage with a team that doesn't throw the ball. Boy, I'm going to miss him. a treasure, a true treasure. And the stories he used to tell me about A.W. Mumford, you talking about somebody, he told me point blank, they said they will never have a AD with that much power on Southern campus anymore. This guy could come, and he told me a story about the track team got back late, and if you know this lady, Jewel Promise, they call her Mama Jaguar. There's some good stories about her. But one time, the cafeteria was closed, and the word got back to Coach Mumford. Oh, accommodations were made. That cafeteria was opened up, and he was a powerful man. He was a powerful man. So the stories that Dr. Gibson used to share with me about A.W. Mumford Stadium, although I wasn't around at that time, but you felt like you were right there the way he told the story. So, A.W. Mumford Stadium, A.W. Mumford, Jewel Promise, Mama Jaguar, some special people. Special people. Dr. Prince.
Yes, sir.
We talked earlier in hour number one about some of the interviews and some of the coaches and kind of their demeanor at SWAC Football Media Day. Who else? What other coach impressed you about maybe how confident they were or how transparent they were about their team's chances?
You know what? I was thinking about Coach Ely when you were making the mention. It's obvious that if anyone is coming into the season on the hot seat, it's going to be Coach Ely. But he seemed to embrace everything with the confidence, with the expectations that he has to get it done. He's made some internal moves on his coaching staff, and we've looked at the schedule, and excuse me, and we know his first 5 games are tough. And I was on record saying, man, he might be the first casualty if things are not heading in the direction that the administrative think it needs to be for Alabama State. But he was impressive. Of course, you made mention on Coach Hendrick on how confident he was. And I tell you someone else who I really, really enjoyed the dialogue with, and we don't talk about them much, was Coach Vincent Dancy from Mississippi Valley. He's coming in, of course, there's not much expected out of Valley because of their history, but he's coming in 46 new ball players. He's able to try to get refocused and rebuild a culture. One thing about it, when nothing is expected of you, you can always make improvements quickly and more accessible when people are not expecting much from you. So it's going to be interesting to see how Valley ends up at the end of the season. I projected them to finish 4th over Alabama State, but who am I?
Well, you're a guy who has an opinion about how things you think will go. You, and we kind of kidded each other on the broadcast, you had Prairie View number 1. Let me read from a listener who says, look at what PVA&M has coming back. And a lot of voters, no matter what conference, consider that an important factor, right or wrong. My only question, and I just text back, O-line and D-line. I stated a couple of weeks ago, skill, personnel, outstanding. You're going to have to figure out, competition as far as the quarterback, but you don't have a problem there. As Coach Dooley stated, on Media Day, that's a good problem to have.
Good luxury to have.
Yeah. So, and I'm going to give credit here. I remember, I picked PV over Southern. You remember that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I remember you told me, I'm not sure on there, but I know you told me off the record, you said, watch, I'm concerned in the trenches. And if you look at the Jackson State game, the Southern game, which I'm supposed to mention, correct? And then the Alcorn State game.
47.
Yeah, okay. It's in the trenches. That's where I'm going to look and see how much improvement
Now,
Prairie
one thing to the credit of Prairie View, they have changed their strength and conditioning coach. And that could be the hidden factor. But still, you claim Missouri, but I am originally from Missouri. That's that show me state mentality. I've got to see these guys put in the body of work. And just as Mo Carter, when I go and look at the preseason camps and this, that, and the other, I'm looking at the skill position, but I'm studying those trench guys. I'm studying the guys on the defensive side of the ball because that's where your season is going to be determined. I could average 50 points a game, but if I'm giving up 51 a game, I'm going to lose more than I win. So my anchoring is on those trenches, defensive side, and I want to have a bona fide kicker. Zach Elder, who is the place kicker for the Panthers, put on a little weight, not much of a concern for me because he's a kicker. He doesn't have to run up and down the field. I just want your accuracy there, and hopefully the little bit of weight he's put on is going to give him a couple of extra yards that he can kick for distance. Who knows?
Yeah, and you know, you're absolutely right. Special teams, we don't talk enough about it, but it usually will cost you couple of games a year, and it can win you a couple of games.
Man, you talk about that. Sam Houston, Rice, those two games alone, of course, they're early in the season. A couple of mishaps on the special team with the long snapper. And it cost the Panthers the game. Those are two games that were doable, winnable games. And you're looking at a 5-6 season now that turns to a 7-4 season. And what a difference that makes for Dooley coming out the first part of the first year on this contract. So the special teams is that unsung hero. And I can recall, I can't remember, was it Coach Frazier? Back when the Panthers, before they won the championship game, there were a couple of missteps, and he says, I will forever always spend a scholarship on a long snapper and a kicker because those guys make a huge impact, and they're going to be responsible. I don't care. You go up and down the season. I don't care who you are. There's going to be a game or two, if not three, where your special teams play is going to have an outcome on whether you win or lose.
So I think it's a legitimate question that I have. Improvement, let's add special teams, but also in the trenches. That's my opinion on that. Coach Hendrick, Jackson State, he impressed me. Now, do you remember what he said? He said basically they have been playing, 26 players on defense?
26 players, man, and that is a lot of ball players. That's a lot of freshness. Now, here's how you counter that, and that's probably, hopefully, especially when they play Prairie View on that Thursday night, if you're rotating that many guys in and out, you're going to catch some mismatches on that spread no huddle offense. You're going to wear some guys down, if they're not used to being on the field that much, and then catching these guys in between shifting out personnel. And you can get those little cheap 5-yard penalties here to move you down the field just a little bit closer towards scoring, whether it's a touchdown preferably or a field goal. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he does that. But that was very intriguing that you got 26 players on the defensive side alone that were in rotation. Hello? It seemed like Brother Carlos had a stumble. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. back, ladies and gentlemen. Mike Prince here with you. I guess we had too much Jackson State talk going in. We Are One playing in the background. Carlos, are you there, my man?
I'm back. Hey, I was about to show Jazz you some love.
Let's say Cupid, draw back your bow, huh?
Yeah, well, I was talking about Coach Hendrick and playing a lot of players on defense, and you made your comment, but he thought it would be an advantage because it wouldn't be a big drop-off. Also, I made note of what – you remember the conversation he was talking about? Everyone thinks of him as a defensive guru.
Yes, sir. That was something that stuck out, too.
Yeah, he coached on the offensive side of the ball. He had been at LSU. And then the conversation, remember, talking about the RPOs?
Yes.
He basically said it's what did he say? It's basically the option.
It's the option in pistol formation, and that's what it is. It's the same old game with a new wrinkle.
And he also talked about first downs. That's what he likes to get on offense. So you kind of can see the strategy. Lean heavily on the defense, which I would agree. Defensively, we talked about it for a couple of years now. They've been very solid. Don't beat yourself offensively and don't turn the ball over. Time of possession and get first down.
That's right.
That's a recipe we've seen before.
But it's all, man. That's why I say it's just all good. And before I forget, we want to give a congratulations to Charles Bishop. He's getting married today. He's a Jackson
Congratulations.
State guy. Congratulations, my man. And look, I'm gonna get out your way, man, because I know you got your guest on. One of the baddest men behind the mic, and that's Brother Brandon B.J. Jones. So I'm going to let you guys take it away, man.
All righty. Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day. I would offer this advice to Charles Bishop, and I think B.J. will agree with this. When mama is happy, everybody's happy. Happy wife, happy life. Just remember that. Brandon B.J. Jones, good morning to you, sir.
Hey, good morning, Carlos, man. How's it going?
I'm doing okay, giving a little marriage advice. Maybe I need to take that into consideration myself. And talking some SWAC football media day. So I'll just hop right into it. Basically, the predicted order of finish. Is it exactly the way you thought it was going to be, or did you have something a little bit different than what the predicted order finish was?
It was pretty much on point of what I initially thought. I kind of felt like I did think that Grambling may have gotten into the 2 spot in the West. I was thinking that would be the place. I was thinking that may be the place that they would put them, but hey, I wasn't shocked to see Prairie View there with the work that they've done in recruiting and bringing players in, and they did beat Grambling a year ago. So all in all, it's about where I think.
Alcorn State picked to come out of the East, and according to the points, picked to win it. Overall, 92 points to 90 for Southern, but are they headed for a collision course? And will October 26th be one of the most important games in conference play when Southern goes back to the place where they ask you, do you want that smoke? Oh, my goodness.
Oh, man, the most important thing for Southern and Alcorn, before you get to October 26th, there's a lot of football that has to be played from August 31st to that point. So I have about 2 months of football. For that game to mean as much as the media and what we said is going to mean, you got to take care of business over those 2 month period. Because if you don't, then that game's just going to be another game. It's going to be another game. So you have to take care of your business week by week. So when you get to that point, it means what we anticipated it meaning. It may be for home field. It may be the division. It could be a variety of different things that it could mean. But to make sure that it means anything at all, you have to take care of your business on August 31st and take care of it week by week leading all the way up to October 26th. And even once you get there, just realizing it's a long way to November 30th when the regular season wraps up. So, like I said, it's going to be interesting. Definitely Southern, you key on Alcorn. They've had Southern's number for the last few years. We're being honest, but there's some other teams that are coming that have improved, that are coming, and you don't want to lose sight of them because that's when you get people to come up and bite you that you didn't expect to bite you at the beginning of the year.
That's a valid point and well taken, because when we talked to Coach Hendrick, he basically said he will know a lot by the end of September. Now, taking what you just said, Southern's at McNeese. They played before. It wasn't pretty years ago. But I think it's a winnable game, a new coaching staff at McNeese. Then they go to Memphis, 11 o'clock game. That was the news that was released this week. It is what it is with that. You're playing up. Then who do you have next? You come home?
Yeah, come home.
And the Pete Richardson Classic?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Edward Waters, I think.
Edward Waters, and then you got FAMU. Mm-hmm. Let's look at Alcorn. They're at Southern Miss first game, correct?
Yep.
All right. Then I want to say they played Mississippi College or somebody.
Yep.
Game 2. Then they go to McNeese. It's not an end all to the season, but I'm telling people, and if you throw Graham State in there, after the first couple of weeks, don't get so down if it doesn't go the way you want to, because of those games, there's still going to be plenty of football to be played.
Now, I think by September, we're going to have, by the end of September, once the calendar flips, you're going to know a lot about who may be contending and who may be pretending this year. Just the way the schedule sets up for a multitude of different teams. I think that the McNeese game for both Southern and Alcorn were important. I'll tell you why. I always tell people this. Winning conference games helps you. It helps your program. But once you're able to step outside of the conference and win games at McNeese, or Alabama A&M going to North Alabama, going to Sanford, that helps the conference. And that's when we started talking about a team like Alcorn, who had the record that they had that wasn't getting the love in the top 25. That's because you need a strong SWAC top to bottom. And how do you become strong? Is stepping outside of the conference and winning those non-conference games. So I think that those games, that McNeese game for both Southern and Alcorn, is going to be are key games. And it'll tell a lot. It's going to reflect a lot on the conference and what the conference can do, because McNeese get a chance to play two heavy hitters. They're not playing, bottom dwellers. They get a chance to play two heavy hitters. So this is going to say a lot about how much SWAC football has actually improved over the last couple.
And, they're just chomping at the bit for the reason you just said, and then another reason. We know Southern's going to travel well to Lake Charles, Louisiana, McNeese. I wouldn't be surprised if attendance records is broken at their stadium. I wouldn't be surprised. Alcorn has proven over the last few years that they travel well. Now, will they travel to Lake Charles? And they played before. It was some time ago. It didn't turn out good as far as when they went to McNeese. But 2 years ago, I thought they had the game. I thought they were going to win it. It was a shootout on the reservation. So, to your point, winning out of conference is huge.
Oh, yeah, man. And that's something that we haven't done well in the conference. We look at that. Stepping out, and we know those play-up games. Like you said, it is what it is. But when you step outside the conference, you're able to get somebody from the Southland or the OVC or SoCon. It says it's a statement game for your conference and where you rank it. I know you feel like I feel when you see those rankings at the end of the year, and they're starting to say, hey, this conference ranked here, this conference is ranked here. And we get tired of the SWAC being ranked, 13th or 12th. And if you want to change that, these are the games that you have to win.
Yeah, play them and win them. visiting with Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day, discussing SWAC Football Media Day, all points in between. With that being said, you're a little bit, well, not a little bit, you're more closer to the Alabama A&M program. Pick number 2 to come out of the East. What are your thoughts on Alabama A&M? Ahead of schedule?
Man, if you're Alabama A&M, I think you're ahead of schedule. I mean, the season that they had a year ago was an amazing season. If you watch them play, they were different football than they had been for years past. I remember the first time I saw them was against Alabama, then saw them again in Mobile when they played against Southern. And that Alabama A&M team is different. Now, we'll say this. For A&M to kick the door down, they have to capitalize all letters of the word have, get better on the offensive line. If there's an Achilles heel to this football team, it's offensive line play. And they don't have the numbers, they don't have the depth, and the talent might not be where it needs to be. You'll hear a lot about Akil Glass, Jordan Bentley, Garrett Qualls. You'll hear a lot about those guys. You hear about the players on the outside. Doesn't matter if that offensive line can't keep Akil Glass, who is probably, we talk about arm talent, he's probably the best quarterback in the conference. From a strictly arm talent standpoint, there's not a throw he can't make. But he can't throw the ball if he's looking up at the light. And that's something that they have to correct if they're going to take that next step and compete with all corners for the East.
Interesting. So I put them in the same category as Prairie View and Panthers. And we were talking about that earlier. In the trenches. So I'm gonna put T besides Prairie View and Alabama A&M. I mean, they've got talent, they've got the skill positions, and then I'm gonna put an eyeball there. I'm gonna be looking to see the improvement in the trenches. I think it's a valid point, and it's not that you're being negative. It's just it's a concern. It's a concern, and they have to get better in that aspect. Now we'll move from that. Ladarius Skelton at Southern University. I've said over the summer, you want to see the progress that he's made. He throws the long ball pretty well, but came on at midseason 5-1 as a starter. Is it important, or how important is it for him to develop, and with the offensive coaching staff to be able to go through progression? 1, 2, you can't go down the field all the time. Utilizing your tight end, your back out, your intermediate routes. How important is that for his overall development?
Oh, man, it's vital. Now Ladarius Skelton is getting ready to go through cycle number 2, which means that now people have film on you. They know what you do well, they know what you don't do well, and they're going to position themselves defensively to take away your strengths, which are running the football. So it's very important to make sure that you're able to hit those intermediate routes, that you're able to hit those 5 to 10-yard routes as opposed to just the bomb. Because like we alluded to a few weeks ago, that's why a championship game looks different. If he makes a simple throw at 8 yards, he sort of picks up the first down. But a lot of that is not. A lot of people think quarterback is all about the arm. It's all about your eyes and your vision too. So that vision has to improve to even be able to see that, to be able to make that throw. Word out of the Southern University campus that he has improved, that he has picked up there. But I will tell you this, another young man that they think has improved tremendously over the last year is Lampley, who we know can make that intermediate throw. It might be interesting to see how they might use those 2 quarterbacks this year. Will we see more Lampley when we talk about those rough pass situations and needing some short yardage? It's going to be interesting. But Ladarius Skelton, if he can, get that part of his game together, he's able to do that. That's a bad man. That'll be a bad man. He'll be a SWAC Offensive Player of the Year type of player if he can do that.
Interesting, and that's what you want to see improvement as far as Skelton. And also, let's just be honest. last year the Jaguars had a stretch where they were very good defensively, but then it reared its ugly head again against not Alabama A&M, but Alcorn State in the championship game. Albeit they only lost by 37-29. So how they improve there will be also important going at least into start the process in fall camp.
Yeah, the man, you just talked about the defense. I forget the yardage, but Alcorn ran for a lot of yards that SWAC championship game. And it seems to me, Carlos, you've been around this thing as long as I have. It seems to me that those Alcorn losses always take away homecoming last year, always involve a large number of yards ground on the game by Alcorn. Mm-hmm. I remember the game 2 years ago. You remember Alcorn only threw 3 passes that game and ran for almost 400 yards on the reservation back in 2017. So we definitely have to shore that up defensively. And it starts with being able to stop that run, and that two-headed monster that you have with Noah Johnson and Deshaun Waller.
Yeah, I remember them well. I'm wondering with Champion and Mr. Cotton, who transferred in. He, from what I'm hearing, quick first step. He's a stud. Gonna have to see.
I got another key for you, Carlos. We talk about Jordan Lewis and what he did last year. Much like Ladarius Skelton, Jordan Lewis was a pass rush specialist. He was a terror. What happens when teams say we're not going to run away from you, we're going to run at you? How do you anchor down and hold your ground? How have you developed as a defensive end in the running game as opposed to the passing game? That's going to be key for Jordan Lewis and the side of the line that he lines up on.
Yeah, no, not going to be a surprise in a pass rushing specialist, as you stated, and you want to have him on the field all the time, not just in a pass rushing situation. So that is an excellent point. He's gained a little bit of weight, but I know at first, and I knew of him, I thought he would be utilized more as a linebacker or a hybrid as he was. But going forward, that's going to be interesting. That's going to be crucial. You still move him around, and then against the run. I mean, let's just be honest. Alcorn State, they don't do anything unexpected. They're going to run the football first, second, and third. That's what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. So, but I know there's games before the Alcorn State that they're going to have to deal with. But that's why I say improvement against the run and be consistent. Lionel Washer, now defensive coordinator. Let's see the work he does to improve in that area, what we're talking about. Jackson State, your thoughts on them?
I like Jackson State. I think that a year ago, I think that the Jackson State defense played good enough to keep them in every game that they played in. If it wasn't for turnovers, they would have been in the Southern game. That defense, like I said, played good enough to keep them in every game. The problem with Jackson State is the offense was so bad. The offense was bad enough to keep the other team in every game they played in also. All right?
Right.
So, I mean, it was a catch-22 over there. So with Jackson State, man, they had to find some consistency at the quarterback position, had to get a little bit better on the offensive line, and then kind of determine your identity. Are you going to throw the ball? You're going to be a throw first or run first football team? What are you going to do? So I think how Jackson State, how far they've come offensively is going to tell you a lot about where their football team could possibly go this season. I know that Hendricks he wants to run the ball and
get first downs.
Get first downs, move the chains. That works great. Let's see if they have the personnel to get it done this year. Because if they are, they'll be able to compete for the East because they got the talent on the defensive side of the ball to be able to do that.
And going back again to SWAC football media day, a defense gets tired.
Mm-hmm.
and they're on the field for 60, 65, 70 snaps, that plays. The offense has to pull their weight.
Yeah,
for lack of a better term. So, I like him. Just talking with him and some of the things that he was discussing. Man, you know how I feel about Jackson State, but I credit what credit to do. We're going to have to see about Jackson State. They could be at a position now to turn the corner since that awful firing of Coach Comity. But anyway, we'll move on. Arkansas Pine Bluff, we got about 9 minutes left. Arkansas Pine Bluff, third in the conference overall, offensively, 10th in defense. Thus, are we to say that defensively is where they have to improve?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you look at Arkansas Pine Bluff, they have the Porter kid at running back who he's easy to forget. If you're not winning, you're out of sight, out of mind. But if you look at Taylor Porter's numbers, he's amazing. I think he led the conference in rushing a year ago. You ask someone who leads the conference in rushing, and once you say, "Oh, Deshaun Waller," no, it's Taylor Porter. It was Taylor Porter. He's a kid. He can make it happen. He's a home run threat. Have a young quarterback who was one of the best passers in the league. The great receivers that they have, but you got to be able to stop somebody. And be honest with you, man, that Arkansas Pine Bluff defense was not good a year ago. It was. In the word of Pete Richardson, it was a tunnel of. You went because you knew everyone was going to score. Everyone was going to score. All right.
Yeah.
So it has to get better, and we'll see what the head coach can do in year two to kind of help shore up that defense. Because he was a defensive guy at Alcorn. So it's going to be interesting to see, can he get enough talent on the defensive side of the ball to help move them up from the 10th ranked defense to even 6th or 5th. I mean, that'll be an amazing improvement for Arkansas.
Yeah. Well, their first game, they'll be judged after that one. Boy, TCU has played Jackson State, Southern, now Arkansas Pine Bluff. I wonder if Prairie View is next, and I wonder if Alcorn will get on board playing TCU. Two quick questions for you. Alyssa wanted to ask for the top 5 quarterbacks in the SWAC. Ask BJ. Ooh, that's a
man. So at the number 5 spot as far as quarterbacks, I just did a SWAC quarterback series on these guys. I had Hickbottom from Grambling. I liked what he did, being able to move the chains with his feet. He was one of the bright spots for the Grambling State offense a year ago. And the 4th spot, and this is kind of pending. We'll see what happens. I have a young man, Jalen Jones. If he's able to come into Jackson State, him in the 4th spot, a 4-star recruit, All-American kid in high school. I got a chance to get a cup of coffee down in Gainesville, go through a spring game. I had him there. In the number 3 spot, I had Akil Glass. Now, we're just talking about just arm talent, prototypical quarterback. Akil Glass is the number 1 guy. He can make every throw. He's 6'5", he's 230, has a big arm, not as mobile.
No.
But he goes as the offensive line goes. The number 2 spot, I have Ladarius Skelton, the guy who stepped in, went 5-1 as a starter, generated a bunch of offense, both running and passing, and just that tangibles that he has. And then at the number 1 spot, I have, the guy who might be the smallest out of this whole group, Noah Johnson. And you just go back and look what he does when the lights are bright, the game is on the line. He can do it through the air. He can do it through his feet. He's the ultimate competitor. He's a leader. So those are my top 5 guys. I would not sleep on the quarterback at Prairie View. I would not sleep on the quarterback at Arkansas Pine Bluff either.
Well, I missed number 3. Who was number 3?
3 was Akil Glass.
Who did I miss? Who was 4?
So 4 was a kid at Jackson State, and then 5 was Tech bottom.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All righty. Yeah. Dr. Prince saying blasphemy in the background. A listener wants to know, could you ask BJ about the transfers coming into the conference?
Oh, wow. I mean, we've been getting a nice amount of transfers coming to the conference. Looks like Texas Southern just picked up one today, the Giles kid from LSU, who originally signed with Texas Tech and did a great job there before going to LSU. I think it's a good thing to get those high-profile kids to come in. If you ask me to rank the ones who I think have the biggest impact, I think the Johnson kid at Texas Southern is going to have an amazing impact at quarterback there. I think that Davin Cotton at Southern University is going to have a amazing impact. I think AJ Davis at Alabama A&M team transferred from Ole Miss. I think that with the transfers that are coming in, I think that's going to have kids thinking, maybe I might go this route initially. Because a lot of times in the past, we didn't get these transfers. They went to the Jacksonville State, the McNeeses, the Nichols, and now we're getting those transfers. And it's going to be interesting to see what kind of impact those guys are going to have this year.
Yeah, and I thought I read, maybe during the spring or January, didn't Alcorn State get a DB transferred in from Kansas State, I thought?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, not that they need any help on the defensive backfield, but they did lose their defensive end to, Southern Miss.
The Whittington kid is gone, yeah.
Yeah. Then, of course, the big guy that just wreaked havoc on the defensive line. I talk, look, now, don't shoot me for what I'm about to say, but I was talking to a couple of people that thought in the conference that said, watch for Alcorn on the defensive line. And I don't know, maybe because of those losses, but I still think they'll be strong defensively. It's just the way they play. They attack.
Yeah, Alcorn's going to be there. They recruited well defensively. The SWAC Defense Player of the Year is a young man that I know pretty well from my hometown of Birmingham, Alabama, Solomon Muhammad. They're going to be, Quintero Cole. They got names on the defensive side of the ball, and they got a lot of depth. So I don't think defensively, Alcorn's going in it.
Well, as we get ready to end this, it's their famous saying, "Who wants that smoke?" Call me crazy. I want another sniff of it. That means maybe Southern will have two opportunities. We shall see. Grambling State University trying to get that pedigree back, that championship pedigree. Not a lot of talk about Grambling State. Coach Orlando, new offensive coordinator. You know him well. I know him well. And, of course, Prairie View A&M picked second. Hey, they're going to have a say-so. So we try to talk about today what we believe will be something to watch for as far as strengths and weaknesses. We shall see. Fall camp right around the corner for the schools in the conference. It should be a very interesting 2019 season. BJ, quick closing comments or share your social media information.
All right. Social media, on Twitter at Inside HBCU Football. You catch me on Facebook, BJ Jones, or from the HBCU Game Day. Heading a lot of my work is there. Just looking forward to the season. Be honest with you, looking forward to the season. Looking forward to get it started. Looking forward to seeing my fellow brethren in the media, especially Carlos. And
yes, sir.
And me, Mike Prince, man, get a chance to sit down with Mike Prince, man. So I'm just looking forward to it, man. I will say this, and Steve and Tolly, we talked about this in HBCU Game Day. The SWAC is a special place. You saw it talking about SWAC football compared to the other conference, even from a media day standpoint. The attention and everything that we get here in SWAC country is amazing, and it's a family. Almost like a family feel to it, where everybody knows everybody. It's just an amazing feeling. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm just blessed just to be a part of it. And coming from being a player and coaching, I'm just blessed that the media side of the Sweat family kind of just welcomed me in with open arms. And I'm thankful for each and every one of these guys.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate it. We will talk to you throughout the season. We'll get you back on real soon. I appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
All right, man. Have a good one, Carlos.
All right. For Dr. Michael Prince, our guests, Morrell, Mo Carter, and Brandon Jones, and everyone who listened and participated, have a great rest of your weekend, and make sure you tune in next Saturday at 10 a.m. for another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Until that time, peace and God bless.